Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day, there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning, good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And, I love April. I love April for a lot of reasons, but I really love April because we focus on LinkedIn on this podcast. And I get to talk with so many cool people who provide us such great tips and information. And so please join me in welcoming today's guest, Jason Osborn, to our program. Welcome, Jason.
Hey, Deb, it is great to be here. Thanks for having me today.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, let me tell people a little bit about you, and then we will dive into this. So Jason Osborn started his first business at age 20, selling window coverings, grossing $150,000 in his first year. His journey into the online world came in 2007, where he trained and qualified as a certified life coach. Within 18 months, Jason had built an email database of 9,000 loyal subscribers, not just going out and finding these names, and exploded his coaching business to serve clients in 13 countries around the world. Seeing the potential for even greater growth, Jason quickly moved into the online marketing space to share his success and teach people how to use social media to generate business. Today, Jason's passion lies very much with LinkedIn. His expertise showing people how they can generate consistent, high-quality leads on LinkedIn without being spammy or paying for ads. He's also the director of coaching for a large social media training agency where he oversees world-class training to tens of thousands of students each year while leading and directing a team of over 20 online business coaches. This has earned him the title of Coach of Coaches within the online marketing industry. So again, Jason, welcome.
Yes, thanks, Deb. I feel a little bit like, well, I didn't know I do all that stuff.
I know. It's always fun when we hear our bios. We're always like,
it's
ooh,
crazy.
isn't this fun? One of the things I always like to talk with my guests about is to learn more about them. You've had a very circuitous route. We were talking before the program that you have kind of a mixed accent because you've done multiple things in multiple countries. So tell us how you got to where you are today and how you discovered that this really is your passion in life.
Yeah, cool. So it's interesting where our journeys take us in life. So I'm originally from Houston, Texas, and I think I've lost my Texas accent, though.
There's not too much twang there.
It's not too much there. I can put it on. My kids always say, "Dad, talk just like that." But I moved to the Republic of Ireland on the west coast near Galway to a little village called Athenry, for anyone that may know where that is. So that was about 16 years ago or so. And as you said, I've always been very entrepreneurial. I had my first business when I was 20, going around Houston selling window coverings, and I loved it. It was an amazing business. I loved doing it. It taught me so much about business. Taught me a lot about myself as well. So anyway, when I moved to Ireland, I was looking for a business. If you're an entrepreneur, it's in your blood. You can't help yourself. But I was really intrigued with this whole online world. Before I'd moved to Ireland, I kind of started learning and reading into it a little bit more and was really intrigued by the whole thing. And so I thought, well, how do I get started with this? And so I've always been really big into self-development and self-improvement and all that. And so I thought, well, what if I combine those two things? So I trained up as a life coach, and as you said, I started marketing myself online. I didn't know what I was doing online at all. But I loved being able to have impact around the world, that people would subscribe to my email. However, we communicated very differently kind of 15, 16 years ago online than we do now. But I was like, man, I can have impact around the world. This is amazing. Wow, this is fantastic. So I just dove right into the whole thing of online marketing and learned as much as I possibly could. And yeah, as you said, I built up an email list of 9,000 people. I was coaching people in 13 different countries, and I'd gotten to know some kind of big names within the online marketing world. And they said, well, why don't you start actually teaching, training, coaching people how to do this stuff? And I was like, do what? Like, I didn't even know I knew anything to
Right.
teach. I was just trying to figure it out myself, you know? So I was like, okay. So I transitioned, and that was about 13 years ago, I think now. And off and on over those years, I've been doing that in one form or another, helping people. And of course, now, as you said, I'm very much focused in on LinkedIn, which I love. It's probably one of the most misunderstood and underutilized platforms.
Yep.
And it's one of the reasons why I love doing it. Because anytime I'm doing webinars or any trainings or guest speaker and anywhere, and it's, you know, to a group of people, whether it's online in person, and you ask people, you know, are they doing much on LinkedIn? Most people aren't.
Right. You get the shrugs, the
yeah. Can you generate business from LinkedIn? Like, people just don't get it at all. And I love that, because there's just so much opportunity out there. So that's kind of how I got started with it. And, you know, as I said, as you said, I'm contracted out with a very large social media training company here in the UK as well. And we have the privilege of coaching thousands of people, and it's just loads of fun. So that's the short version of my journey. And I know we'll probably get into more of that, but yeah, that's where I kind of started and where I'm now, and just love what I do.
Right. I love it. I love it. So, you know, obviously I was looking at your LinkedIn profile, and you know, it's always fun when I talk with somebody who knows and understands LinkedIn, because they get it. They know what things to put in their profile. And so you've got I call it the billboard, you know, the big image behind your head. And you do exactly what we tell people they should do. You catch people's attention with it, because you say in there, from plane crash survivor to impacting companies around the globe. Okay. Plane crash survivor. You're going to have to explain that.
Yeah. So, obviously, if you don't be in a plane crash just to put something like
right.
that
Yeah.
up
No,
on your
don't
LinkedIn.
do things just.
yeah. Don't do it on purpose. But yeah, I was living in Houston. I was 20. Gosh, I always forget, because that year was so blurry. I was 21 or 22. It was 2002, January 17th, 2002. So it's 19 years ago now. And yeah, we were was involved in a church, a community center there, and we were looking at building up a youth facility, youth community facility. And we had heard about one that was around Killeen, Temple, Texas. And so we had a friend of ours was a pilot, and so we had a little well, I didn't have it, but they had charted out a twin engine Cessna prop plane, and we flew from Houston to Temple.
Right. Because it's much faster.
It's faster, yeah, and yeah, just okay, cool. So we'll do that.
Fun,
and,
yeah, right.
And it's fun, yeah. And I'd never been in a little prop plane like that before, and so we were on our way there, and the flight was about an hour long, and I knew we were getting ready to be there because about an hour had passed, and then basically we were told from the guy that was sitting in the co-pilot seat. He wasn't flying the plane; he was just one of our friends sitting in there, and he just said, "You guys, I don't think we're gonna make it. You know, start praying."
Yeah.
And yeah, so he was known as kind of a jokester type guy, and so I was like, "Yeah, okay, whatever, huh?" And he's like, "No, I'm serious."
Right.
So we knew by the look on his face, like, "Wow, are you serious?" And both engines ended up dying in the air.
Oh,
and
you became a glider.
we became a glider, yeah. So it went from, like, if you've ever been in a really small prop plane like that, it's very, very loud. Like, I couldn't believe how loud it is. Nothing. It was just silent. So yeah, we were just kind of gliding down.
Did you run out of fuel?
Well, the official ruling from the NTSB was there was the mismanagement of fuel. We didn't run out of fuel, because if you go to my profile, you'll see there's a lot of fire. So there was fuel there, but both planes ended up not planes, both engines ended up dying because of the mismanagement of fuel. And when we were coming in, the pilots are basically trained. I learned all this afterwards, but they're trained when they're crash landing to fly in between two trees to rip the wings off the plane.
Right, because that's where the fire is going to be.
Yeah, well, and that's where all the fuel is stored, is in the wings. And so rip that off. So you remove as much of a fire
Mhm.
risk as possible. So that's what he did. However, the plane was built a year before those regulations came into
Oh no.
place.
So it wasn't breakaway
there
wings.
there wasn't breakaway rings. Yes. And so what happened is he hit the right wing with
Mhm.
on a tree,
Mhm.
and it torqued the plane 90 degrees into
Right.
a house while
Mhm.
ripping the right side of the plane off,
Mhm.
which is the side that I was sitting on.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I woke up, I didn't kind of know where I was. It was
Right.
really weird experience.
Mhm.
Like I didn't know what was going on. And then I kind of remembered I was on a plane, and then
Mhm.
I forgot I was on a plane. It was weird, just a very weird.
Mhm.
I didn't know what was going on. And so I went to get out of the plane. I
Mhm.
couldn't see anyone in the plane or
Mhm.
hear anyone. Um, uh, and then I heard one of my friends, and then I forgot I heard him.
Mhm.
It's so weird what happens when
Mhm.
you're in a
Right.
massive kind of
Mhm.
traumatic crash like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so after a while, I could feel a lot of heat, and I
Mm.
thought, well, I need to get out of the
Yes.
plane. And
Yes. Get
I thought,
away.
yeah. And so
Mhm.
I thought maybe we had landed in a field
Mhm.
somewhere. Maybe everyone was outside waiting for
Mhm.
me. Like, and all this happened probably in the span of like 2 minutes, 2 or 3
Mhm.
minutes.
Right.
It seemed like a long time to me
Mhm.
though. And I went to get out, and my arm, I went to get out on the big hole that was on. So it
Mhm.
was my left hand side of
Mhm.
but it was the right hand side of the plane. And I went to get out, and something really hot touched my arm, and it felt like a really hot iron touched it.
Mhm.
And I ended up having like a big, almost third-degree burn
Oh.
there. And on the crash,
Mhm.
it sliced my arm here down to my
Ah.
bone.
Mhm.
And so I thought, well, okay, I'm just gonna stay here because
Yeah.
that was
I
hot.
that was ow.
Yeah, so I'm gonna
Mhm.
stay here. But then it got really, really, really hot, like
Mhm.
intensely hot, and I was
Mhm.
like, okay, well, I have to find my way out of here because
Mhm.
this is. I don't know, is it gonna burn up? I didn't
Right.
know what was going on.
Explode. Mhm.
Yeah, I didn't have any clue.
Mhm.
So anyway, I kind of made my way out,
Mhm.
and actually the picture you see in the banner, there's a guy kind of pointing like this, and
Mhm.
you can see me coming out, and
Mhm.
he was the first guy that showed up. He
Mhm.
was he'd just gotten off duty. He
Mhm.
was a paramedic.
Ah.
They had just gotten off duty and saw the
Mhm.
plane coming down and kind of followed it to where it was
Mhm.
going. And so he was actually calling me over while
Mhm.
telling everyone else to stay away because he didn't know if
Mhm.
the plane was going to blow up.
Right.
So anyway, he kind of called me over, and then
Mhm.
I ended up just kind of collapsing down on the ground.
Mhm.
And then a friend of mine, he got out of the plane as well. But then the other three, there was five of us in total. The other three passed away
Oh
in the
dear.
crash.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it was pretty severe.
Mhm.
And yeah, so it's taken me a while. I've never had any problems talking about it.
Mhm.
If people ask me about it, I don't have any
Mhm.
problems talking about it, telling details of the story or
Right.
anything like that. But I've always felt kind of hesitant to use that as
Mhm.
part of my life. Just
Mhm.
survivor's guilt. There's a lot of stuff that
Right.
I had to work
Mhm.
through all that.
Mhm.
And then I just thought, do you know what? It's part of my life,
Right.
and if it helps me
It's
to
definitely
impact and help me,
unique.
it's
Mhm.
unique. If it
Mhm.
helps me to impact
Mhm.
people, I'm going to use that.
Right.
Whether that's people who have suffered loss and
Mhm.
trauma, if I can help them
Mhm.
that way, or whether it's to capture people's attention
Mhm.
to be able to say, look, I can help you
Mhm.
in what I do, and all that. So yeah,
Mhm.
so that's the story of it. And so yeah, it's part of my life and something
Mhm.
unique that I put up. And
Yeah.
definitely, as you said,
Mhm.
recommend
Mhm.
put up something unique of yourself up
Right.
there as well. Doesn't have to be a
Right.
plane crash,
Right.
just
Oh yeah,
something.
yeah. No other plane crashes.
No.
But one of the things that I tell people, and we've had a lot of people talk about during this month, is to use LinkedIn in a more personal way. I think we all initially, when we went to LinkedIn, it was more than likely we were looking for a job and we cut and pasted our resume, right?
Yep.
And then for many people, they never went back. They might
No.
have gone back and updated it and some things like that. But we always think of it as being professional. If you want to talk about your dog or your cat or your kid or, all of those things, you use the other social media platforms.
Yeah.
And that's true. I mean, LinkedIn is not where you post the cute cat videos, unless maybe you're a vet. And but it's still okay in your, especially in your about section, to have those personal details, or even in your headline, you've got something, I've got something. I mean, I talk in both mine that I'm a passionate college sports fan, and that just gives people, first of all, they think, oh, this is a real person,
Yeah.
and so talk to us more about, how we truly personalize LinkedIn.
Yeah, and I'm right on the same page with you,
Mhm.
Deb. It's a huge thing that I see a lot of people make mistakes in, and
Mhm.
it is because of I think people still look at LinkedIn as a resume or CV platform, which it is if you're looking
Right.
for a job.
Mhm.
It's great for that.
Mhm.
But if you're looking to promote out your business, generate
Mhm.
leads from the platform, it is about making it more personal. And
Mhm.
I always tell people, particularly in your about section, the amount of about sections to me that look like a resume is is shocking,
Or they have one sentence and you're like,
or one.
eh.
Yeah, what's that mean?
Mhm.
And I always tell people, whenever I'm hiring people, particularly when I was in management
Mhm.
jobs, when I went, in companies when I was hiring loads of people and stuff, those resume review days, I wasn't excited about those days.
No,
They're
no.
boring.
Yeah.
People lie about themselves.
Mhm.
you know
Mhm.
like it's not exciting. It doesn't capture people's
Mhm.
attention. And I always tell people, if we're being really honest with ourselves, no one really cares about me,
Mhm.
right? They
Right.
want to know how I can help them.
Mhm.
And when we understand that psychology of
Mhm.
it, it's about making sure that your profile is all about your prospect, how you
Mhm.
can help them. And when I say how you can help them, it's not listing out all the things you do and your
Yes. I can
pricing
do
and
da 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 da.
yeah,
Ugh.
yeah, it's boring. People
Mhm.
don't care. People
Mhm.
don't like brochures. People like stories.
Mhm.
People like understanding that, and knowing that you understand them.
Mhm.
You understand their problems and their challenges, and
Mhm.
you get it, and all of that sort of thing. And so, yeah, it's a big thing that I harp on about
Mhm.
with all my clients. We usually spend anywhere between 1 and 2 hours
Mhm.
working on making sure
Mhm.
that their profile is set up really well around
Mhm.
that. So, totally agree. It's you don't want it to be boring.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that you have to have emojis all over the place.
Mhm.
Some industries that works really well in others,
Right. Oh
it
yeah, if,
doesn't.
if you're an engineer, emojis might not work. If you're
No,
in social media, emojis are cute.
exactly. So there's, yeah, definitely making it personal.
Mhm.
And as you said, that the banner,
Mhm.
it's a big piece of real estate on
Right.
your when people come and look at your profile.
Mhm.
And so having something in there that is unique, different, definitely don't have the default
Oh, the blue
LinkedIn.
gray whatever
Yeah,
thing.
don't
Mhm.
definitely have something else in
Mhm.
that, but try to stay away from all that stock imagery
Mhm.
stuff as well, or just like a company
Mhm.
logo that doesn't tell me
Right.
anything about how
Mhm.
you can help me.
Mhm.
And so having something in there that shows credibility.
Mhm.
If you do any training, if you're a
Mhm.
public speaker, have some images of
Right.
that up there, because it
Mhm.
shows credibility and
Mhm.
experience that people have actually
Mhm.
listened to
Right.
you,
Mhm.
that you've got something to share.
Mhm.
So making something around that for your banner is
Mhm.
really helpful as well.
Right. And the banner can have stock image. I mean, because a lot of
Oh
us
yeah.
don't, but we don't have pictures of us in a plane crash. But do something that makes sense. I was talking to somebody the other day and she is a professional writer. And so, she was going to look for like one of the old fashioned typewriters and have that as part of it, but just part of it. Then she was going to have something else in
Yeah.
there to personalize it. But yeah, if you're using stock photography, still have it something that is applicable. And I tell people all the time, because they're like, oh no, what do I do? It actually tells you, here are the best dimensions, or you can always Google it, and then use Canva, or another program like that to design it, to make sure it looks good, so that you don't take something in there that gets grainy, or, all those things. It's pretty easy to have a pretty
Yeah.
nice image up there.
Yeah, it's really easy. And if you're not a great designer like
Mhm.
me, like I'm not a great designer and I don't try to be. I waste a lot of time trying to design stuff because I'm bad at it. Go to Fiverr,
Right.
and get one done. You can get one
Mhm.
done for, 15 or
Mhm.
$20,
Right.
and have it done and look really nice.
Mhm.
It's the right dimensions. They can find photography
Mhm.
that works for you. So yeah, stock photography is fine.
Mhm.
I guess what I was saying around that,
To just plunk
It's
something up there. No.
yeah, or as you said, go along. It needs to go along with what you do. So, like
Mhm.
I've seen people who, let's say that they're um, uh, a psychologist, and
Mhm.
then they have a skyline image in their background. It's
Right.
like,
You're
well,
like,
what
well,
does
that
that
doesn't make
mean?
sense.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, make sure it's congruent with what
Mhm.
you do. But definitely, your profile is really important.
Mhm.
But that's the first step.
Mhm.
And a lot of people go, I just need my profile updated,
Mhm.
and then sometimes they think they're just going to get floods of people
Right.
coming to them,
Yes. Mhm.
right? But that's just the beginning
Mhm.
of the whole process.
Right.
But it's definitely a really important bit
Mhm.
of it as well.
Right. And that really is what I hear the most from people. We've got a great profile or what they think is great. They've got, quite a few connections. They've done, kind of those steps, but then they have absolutely no idea what to do. And
Yeah,
that's really where you specialize in is, because the worst thing is, of course, when we come across as spammy because
yeah,
we don't know what to post. And so, we either post something that is buy for me, buy for me, buy for me, or when we respond to a request to connect, our immediate thing is to try and sell them something.
yeah,
And so, and whether that's just you type it out or it's automated, which we all know, we can tell immediately when it's automated, right?
yeah, yeah.
Because it's like, oh, and there are ways to do that. I mean, I had a guest on earlier this month who has a fabulous program where it's very specific. I mean, and it doesn't always send out an automated response, and also, but anyhow, there are certainly ways to do some of these things
Yeah,
without being spammy. But I think that
yeah.
is people's biggest concern is either A, I'm going to be spammy and they're not going to care, or B, they're not going to care. So talk to us about what the heck, how do we get people's attention?
Yeah. Okay, cool. I love this stuff. So you're right. People are afraid to be spammy,
Mhm.
or people just don't care if they're
Mhm.
spammy or not,
Right.
and that's what's giving a lot of people kind of a bad taste in their mouth
Mhm.
for LinkedIn right now is they're getting a lot of automation
Mhm.
stuff. I'm not a massive fan of automated
Mhm.
tools on LinkedIn. I think automation tools can work really well on a lot of other
Mhm.
platforms, but on LinkedIn it's not great. They send your connection requests out, and then as soon as
Mhm.
someone accepts the connection request, it's usually a written message to
Mhm.
them, and it just sells, and it's
Right.
spammy, and it's
Mhm.
horrible, and it's like throwing mud up against the wall.
Mhm.
So what I always say to people is you want to think about how you stop people's scrolling patterns,
Okay.
and that's not just on their content, but it's in their messages as well.
Okay.
How do you stop them to actually make them pay attention?
Mhm.
So I'll give an example around this. When people post, and we were actually talking about this a little bit pre-show, when people post, sometimes people get really discouraged
Mhm.
around posting
Right.
because I post all the time and I just don't get stuff.
Mhm.
Posting to me is what I call more of a passive marketing aspect of it.
Okay.
Now, you can be proactive in some of the things and how you do what you
Mhm.
do in terms of posting. But if you're just posting content out there, what you're doing is, first of all, you're hoping that it shows up on their LinkedIn feed.
Mhm.
If it does, you're hoping they stop to pay
Mhm.
attention. And if they actually do, for whatever reason, stop and
Mhm.
pay attention, you're hoping they actually consume that information.
Mhm.
If they consume the information, then you're hoping they engage and
Mhm.
interact. But then what? Like, then
Mhm.
you're hoping they reach out to you and go, "Oh my God, that was so amazing. Can I buy
Mhm.
from you?" Like,
Right.
there's a lot of
There's a
hope
lot of
involved,
hope.
a lot of hope. And
Mhm.
I don't like working on hope,
Right.
like hope is
Mhm.
great to,
Mhm.
but in terms of marketing, it's not great. So I'm not saying don't post content. I
Right.
post content on
Mhm.
LinkedIn. It's a great way to build credibility and engage with people
Mhm.
and all that sort of stuff. But there's more of a strategy to that. I
Mhm.
like being more proactive in
Okay.
the way that I do it, not aggressive and not spammy. So there's a big difference between
Mhm.
those two things, but being proactive where you're actually communicating, messaging out to people once they've connected back to you,
Mhm.
but doing it in a way where it's not as soon as they connect with you, you send a message.
Right, because
You're
then you're thinking that is automated, Mhm.
that is automated, yeah,
Mhm.
and you don't want that. You want
Mhm.
you want to show people that you're engaging with them,
Mhm.
right? You're wanting to show up in their notifications. You're
Mhm.
wanting them to show up that you've actually paid attention.
Mhm.
that you actually care,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then when you do message them, you message them in a way that stands out.
Mm-hmm.
And there's different ways that you can message on LinkedIn. There's
Mm-hmm.
3 different ways you can message right now on LinkedIn. You can do text,
Mm-hmm.
which we're all familiar with,
Mm-hmm.
which is what most people do to spam.
Mm-hmm.
You can send an audio message, which a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people don't know you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And then what even less people know you can do is you can send a video message on LinkedIn.
Right.
And so, people who do LinkedIn, they're like, oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we already know that. But most people don't. Like,
Right.
I don't.
I've never used those two. I've never
And,
done audio or video.
and they're awesome. They're
Mm-hmm.
amazing. So doing things like that I always say, how can you stop people's scrolling patterns? So
Right.
whether it's the content that you put out,
Mm-hmm.
or whether it's the messages you send, what's going to make people
Mm-hmm.
stop and actually pay attention?
Mm-hmm.
That is where you're going to make yourself night and day different from
Mm-hmm.
your competition, because your competition, one, they may not want to put that effort in. You might go, oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but it's not automated, I don't want to have time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, people aren't going to pay attention to you anyway, and
Right.
you may even get banned on LinkedIn because
Mm-hmm.
you're spamming people all the
Right.
time.
Yeah, because if people
So
report you, if enough people report you, LinkedIn goes, nah, you're done, or
yeah,
you're at
and
least suspended. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and they're cracking down on that as well,
Mm-hmm.
particularly over this last year.
Yep.
I haven't seen any official numbers from LinkedIn, but I saw someone post around this. There's been like a 2,300% increase in traffic on LinkedIn.
Right.
Like
Because we all got shut in our little bedrooms.
Yeah.
And so we went, ooh, let's use LinkedIn.
Yeah. And so there's been so much more traffic, which means
Mm-hmm.
there's been a lot more spam.
Right.
And so LinkedIn, they are clamping down on that. And I always tell people, you have to think about it from LinkedIn's perspective. If you can think about it from LinkedIn's perspective, you're going to be long-term in this game.
Right.
Right. LinkedIn, what they're doing, they want to make sure that they're providing a good user experience to me and you, right?
Right.
The users.
Yeah.
So
because if it's not a good experience, we don't use it.
We're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Which means they lose user numbers. We go somewhere else, and they stop making money, right? So, and LinkedIn's goal is to have 3 billion users on the platform by 2025.
Wow.
Right? They're around 700. I think 766 million.
Somewhere around there, yeah. They're
around there.
approaching 1 billion.
They're approaching that, yeah. And so, they have aggressive goals to increase their database or user experience, users on there, but it has to be done in the right way. So if you think long term on what they're wanting to do, and by implementing good strategies where you're adding value to people, you're going to win the game long term.
Right.
And I don't know about you, Deb, but I'm in the game long term. I'm not looking for a quick win.
I mean, those are fun, but yeah, doesn't pay the bills long term either.
No. So so the other kind of term I use around that is stand up and stand out marketing. Where people, it stands up in front of them, and it also stands out as well, and helps them to actually pay attention. So one of the things as well that I recommend when we talk about content marketing is, if you see an image of a person that's standing on top of the mountain with their hands raised in the air, what do you think that post is about?
Oh, it's inspirational.
Something inspirational. Are you going to stop and pay attention to that?
No, because I saw 4 other images like it.
Exactly. It's the same. It's boring. People associate that image with the content, and they're going to go, I've read this a million times. I don't even know what it is, but I already know it.
Yeah.
So,
and they don't even think it's new, or original.
No.
It's either you're saying the same thing, or you've just shared somebody else's content. And it's okay to share other people's content.
Yeah.
But if it really is something that I already saw 4 times and I've only been on LinkedIn for 15 minutes today, then yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I always tell people, use imagery that's going to make people pay attention. Have them something that's shocking, right? So one of the, and I don't mean shocking in terms of has to be something horrific,
but it catches their attention.
It catches their attention. So one of the things, one of the posts that I made a while back was a really cool image, and it was a picture, and I don't know if someone photoshopped it or not. I don't know. They probably did, but to me, it was amazing. But it was an image of basically a a parking lot
Mm-hmm.
of like an apartment complex, and you could
Mm-hmm.
see the apartment complex on one side, and there were cars in the parking lot, and of
Mm-hmm.
course there was a fence,
Mm-hmm.
and then on the other side of the fence there was grass, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
But in the parking lot it was flooded.
Ah.
Okay. And so the image was, I don't want to know why it was flooded, I want to know who built the fence.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that got so much
Mm-hmm.
engagement
I
because
remember
people,
seeing that. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and so people are,
Mm-hmm.
looking at that, wow, that's different, whoa,
Mm-hmm.
like yeah, why did, how is that
Mm-hmm.
happening? How is one side flooded and the other is
Mm-hmm.
not?
Right.
And so finding images like that
Mm-hmm.
can really help your engagement, help
Mm-hmm.
you stand out, so that people, it stops
Mm-hmm.
people's scrolling patterns, so they
Mm-hmm.
actually pay attention, and it gives you much more opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to engage with them. So that's the content side. So
Right.
just some tips around that
Mm-hmm.
on when posting
Well,
content.
and I'm looking at your profile right now, and the most recent post you did, and you use a lot of images. And I, I'm a big fan of images also. It does catch people's attention, and all those things. But you've done a post, and the image you put on it, it's a black background with white text. So that right there makes it stand out, because that is very different from what we normally see. And then it just says, do you think failure is bad? And failure's in all caps. Comment yes or no, and explain if you'd like. And so I love that, because even if they don't read what you post along with that image, they might still comment. And so, but it obviously caught my attention, because it's that stark image. Now, if you do it every single time, then it loses,
Yeah.
its potency. But what I love is that you also say comment. And I've talked about this before with people, is that somehow, even though there's that big block there that says add a comment, there's the buttons for like, comment, share, send, all those various things. Somehow we still seem to think we need permission. And
Mm.
so the second you say comment, yes or no, or, things like that, then people are like, oh, well, Jason really does care what I think, so I am going to comment. You gave me permission to comment, and
Yeah.
that's just kind of one of those weird, purely anecdotal things that I have discovered, is when I ask for people's comments, I get comments.
Yeah, yeah, and it's true, because you're asking people to engage,
Mm-hmm.
and people like to be heard. They like to
Mm-hmm.
hear what their thoughts are. And
Right.
actually, there's been some really intriguing comments on there
Mm-hmm.
as well, and
Mm-hmm.
different perspectives from what people have said around it. That I was like, oh, that's interesting. I hadn't
Mm-hmm.
really thought about it that way,
Mm-hmm.
and so I like it as well. It's
Mm-hmm.
engaging to me, and helps me see different
Right.
perspectives. So yeah, definitely anything around that, because when I was making that post, I
Mm-hmm.
tried it with the white background and black text, which is what you normally
Mm-hmm.
see. But as you said, I always try to look at how it can help just stand out
Mm-hmm.
and give me that little bit of an extra
Mm-hmm.
edge from all the other content that
Mm-hmm.
is being put out there, which in reality, on LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
the user content on there is so small
Mm-hmm.
compared to the data, to
Right.
their user
Yeah.
database.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, and I love that, because it means when you do post, it has a better chance of standing out.
Yeah.
You're not one of a bazillion, you're one of 1,000. And I mean, I'm making up those numbers, obviously, but it's not like when you post on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of those things, where there really are thousands of other competing posts.
Yeah.
And the likelihood then of yours being seen is slim to none. And I was also noticing that you pretty much only post once a day. And, that's one of the things people ask me is, oh my gosh, how often should I post? And I tell them, okay, start out small. Don't even think about once a day. Start with a couple times a week. But once a day is pretty sufficient. I mean, clearly you're very successful with this. And so it's, you're not stopping and thinking, oh, I have to post every couple hours. I have to, no, once a day really is enough.
Yeah, I think so. And the thing is, so some people might post, 3 or 4 times a day, and they're on it all the time. And I just don't have time for that.
Right.
And so I post around once a day. I post a minimum kind of 3 times per week, and it works, and I enjoy it. And it's one of those things, like I kind of balance all of this with what I enjoy as well.
Right.
And if something becomes really burdensome to
Right.
me, then I always look, how can I do this easier? Because I know that I'll eventually stop doing it. And if it's burdensome to me, or I'll outsource it, and
Right.
which is always a good thing to do as well.
Yeah. Well,
But
and we can tell when we're reading posts from people, when they're just putting it in, they're phoning it in, and it doesn't matter what it is, you can tell. I remember years ago, I subscribed to one of the big marketing folks, to their e-newsletter, because I thought, okay, this guy's going to have a ton of great information. Well, somewhere he had proclaimed that he would post once a day. He would commit that he was going to post once a day. And that was great for a while. But then he started running out of things to say, right? And so what originally was these great blog posts that were very informative ended up being 1 or 2 sentences. And I stopped opening them, because it was like, okay, he doesn't care, so why should I care? And so when we feel like we're forcing it, people know, and so take that step back and say, okay, why am I feeling like I'm forcing it?
Yeah. And one of the things that I teach a lot with the content to help out, and we're talking a lot about content, even though to me that's not the major way that to generate leads and what I teach. But for content, one of the things that's really good, and I didn't come up with this, I've learned it just through the years of what I've been doing, but having 3 pillars, columns, 3 areas that that you want your kind of content to be built around. And then for each one of those, just list 20 talking points on each of those. And you can do that, and you'll have 60 pieces, 60 content
You just made
ideas.
basically an editorial calendar.
Yeah, exactly. And then it becomes a lot easier to create content. Because I don't know if you've ever done this, Deb. I definitely have. If you don't know what you're posting and haven't kind of planned it out, you'll sit there, go, great, I'm going to create some content today. And for the next 45 minutes, you're thinking, well, what am I going to do? And, your brain.
And then I get sidetracked and forget to go back to it. Right.
Exactly. And so by creating more of that kind of content calendar type of stuff, so you can just look at the topic and go, okay, yeah, as soon as your mind focuses in and it knows what it's talking about, it's easy to come up with content.
And you can even do content in advance.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And then of course, I have my own podcast, just like your podcast we're on now. And so that, if you're doing anything like that's just easy content, because you're doing it anyway, and it's valuable information to post out. And so that's really helpful as well for any type of, like interviews or anything like that you're doing. And even, I always say to people, if you're doing a webinar, you're a guest speaker or anything, always record that. And obviously with permission, if it's not if you're not hosting it, whatever, and then use that as content. You can split it up. You can, if it's a 30-minute segment, you can split up in 5-minute blocks. And now, you've got 6 pieces of content that you can put out. So there's loads of just little things that you can do to help with the content element of what you're doing on LinkedIn. So.
Well, Jason, you say that content really isn't the key to success. So what is?
So for me, the thing about it is being proactive in the way that you're reaching out.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is this: one, you want to make sure that who you're connecting with, who you're targeting in terms of who you're reaching out to, is very, very clear, that you have a very clear understanding of who your target market is.
Right.
Okay? Which we all hear of. And a lot of times when I'm speaking to my clients, like, oh yeah, I already know all that. But when I actually start digging into it, they're not clear.
Right. They accept every request to connect. They, take every business card they have and connect with those people. And I think a lot of people do, the whole quantity thing is far more important to them than quality.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've even had people say, oh, well, because at this moment, like I don't even have 10,000 followers on LinkedIn or connections. And I'm like, that doesn't, okay, great. I mean, I can
Yeah.
go out and get an extra 15 if I want to,
Mhm.
but
Why?
why?
Mhm.
Do you know, like it's the people who I'm wanting to do business with,
Mhm.
who I'm wanting to connect with,
Mhm.
who I know I can help as well.
Mhm.
And I'm not looking for just anyone. So when I lived in the States, one of the
Mhm.
things that I did there is I was a mortgage a broker, right?
Mhm.
Well, I can't even do that anymore. I'm not
Mhm.
going to go, oh, yeah, I can help you out with your mortgage and
Mhm.
stuff.
Right.
Just because I was able to do it, or maybe I
Mhm.
can do it. So, like a
Mhm.
life coach, right?
Mhm.
I can life coach people. I've
Right.
trained up as
Mhm.
a life coach. But if someone comes to me asking for life coaching, I don't do that.
Right.
Like,
You're
I'm
going to
not going to
refer them
just,
to somebody else.
I'm going to refer them to
Mhm.
somebody else. So, getting really clear on who you're targeting
Mhm.
is the first step.
Mhm.
Once you actually have them as a connection,
Mhm.
start to engage with them,
Okay.
right? Don't just automatically send that
Mhm.
spammy message off to them.
Mhm.
Engage with them. Show up in their
Mhm.
notifications. Okay. We love notifications,
Mhm.
all of us, whether it's on Facebook,
Mhm. Right.
Instagram, whatever.
It
Whenever
acknowledges our existence as maybe
it
the
it
Mhm.
makes us know we actually
Mhm.
are, someone notices us.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And that's why we have these, right?
Mhm.
All of us have these within 2 feet of our
Right.
body pretty much at all
Yeah.
times.
Because we love seeing that someone liked our post, that someone commented, that someone shared, all of those various things.
Yeah, and we have to make sure. A friend of mine always says, we always make sure that our phones are charged. We could care less if our partners are charged,
Right.
but
Mhm.
if our phone isn't charged,
Mhm.
it's a big deal.
Mhm.
So whenever we see these things come in,
Mhm.
we get these dopamine
Right.
hits and all that
Like,
kind of
"Ooh."
stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's cool.
It's
And if
it's
we
the whole
just,
Pavlov's dog thing.
it is,
That it dings on our phone and we're hungry for that information.
we're just
Ooh.
drooling.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it is. So if we take what we were just talking about earlier
Mhm.
around content
Mhm.
and all of that sort of thing, and if most people who post content, they don't get a lot of engagement.
Right.
Okay? They just don't.
Mhm.
So when they do get engagement, particularly from someone they don't know,
Mhm.
they're intrigued,
Right.
right? They're
You
like, oh,
caught their attention.
so you've caught their attention. Oh,
Mhm.
who is this? Oh,
Mhm.
wow. They've they've liked and they've liked a
Mhm.
post, or they've commented on a
Mhm.
post, or they've endorsed me for one of my skills.
Mhm.
Wow, that's awesome. It shows them that you're paying attention, but it puts you on their radar as
Mhm.
well.
Right.
Okay. And you might go, oh yeah, but they just accepted my connection request. Well, they're not
They
sitting there
didn't
going,
have
oh,
to.
they didn't have to, and
Mhm.
they're not thinking, oh my God, Jason's on the top of my mind now that I've accepted
Mhm.
his connection request. Like, they've forgotten about me because they've got a life. you
Right.
know
Yeah. Within a minute of them commenting, clicking, sharing, whatever,
yeah,
they're on to something else and you cease to exist.
exactly. And so what you want to do is you want to, in a friendly way, remind them of
Mhm.
who you are, and doing things to be noticed by them,
Mhm.
on engaging with their content,
Mhm.
endorsing them, all that sort of stuff is really, really
Right.
helpful to that, because you show up in their notifications when
Mhm.
you do that. So once you've engaged a bit with them, and it doesn't
Mhm.
have to be, weeks of that, it's just
Mhm.
1 or 2 days of it.
Right.
Then the way that you message them, you want to message them in a way that adds value. And
Mhm.
this is one of the biggest things that a lot of people don't get.
Mhm.
So they'll message people in a way where it's, this is what my business does.
Mhm.
This is what the services we offer.
Mhm.
Would you like to buy?
Mhm.
Or do you want to get on a call so I can tell you more about it?
Mhm.
No,
No.
thanks, but
Mhm.
not really,
Mhm.
because again, you're doing the same thing everyone
Mhm.
else is doing. So how can you add value? How can you
Mhm.
show social proof that you've
Mhm.
done it for other people,
Mhm.
that they're able to look at it in a way where they see the value in what you're
Mhm.
doing, they communicating them in a way where they are appreciative
Mhm.
of the message you've sent them and how you're
Mhm.
communicating with them. And that's the important bit.
Mhm.
I get I get messages from people all the time,
Mhm.
because you're never going to have 100% success rate with people going,
Mhm.
yeah, cool, let's talk.
Right.
But I get messages people all the time that say no, thank you,
Mhm.
and they followed up with, but thank you so much for your message.
Mhm.
Or, wow, I really appreciate the way you've
Mhm.
reached out to me. It's not for me, but thank you.
Right. Mhm.
And that's what you want. You
Mhm.
want people to be able to still like you
Mhm.
by you with your
Right.
communication.
Not you bothered me, and now I'm going to unconnect.
Yeah. Unconnect,
Mhm.
unfriend, whatever,
Mhm.
get rid of you,
Uh-huh.
throw you out the door. So so that's what you're really wanting to do,
Mhm.
is you're wanting to engage in people in such
Mhm.
a way where they're appreciative of the content. They see the value that you're adding in
Mhm.
that message. And that and I always say to people, don't try to sell
Mhm.
on LinkedIn. Okay. In
Right.
my experience, it's selling on the platform is
Mhm.
not what you want to do.
No.
You want to create that engagement,
Mhm.
interaction, and then move that conversation
Mhm.
offline
Right.
and actually have that communication
Mhm.
with people, so you can understand what their actual needs are, what
Mhm.
their challenges are, and can you actually help them?
Mhm.
Because you might get on the phone with them and realize actually you can't help them, and that's
Right.
fine too. You can
Or
refer them
maybe
on to
they can
somebody
help
else.
you. You never know.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. So, having all of that is
Mhm.
really important. So for me, that's the proactive bit, where you're
Mhm.
reaching out to people,
Mhm.
you're communicating and messaging them in such a way where it stands out from all the
Mhm.
other DMs they get that
Mhm.
are just spammy. And so they pay attention,
Mhm.
and then they actually do want to speak to you,
Right.
because you're so, I mean, I've had people come back to me and just say, do you know what? I just want to get on the phone with you because
You
you've
sound
messaged
cool.
me. You sound cool.
Mhm.
You've messaged me in such a different
Mhm.
way. Oh, and obviously with the world that I'm in
Mhm.
around lead generation and
Mhm.
LinkedIn marketing, there's a lot of people out
Mhm.
there spamming the heck out.
Mhm.
We can help you with your LinkedIn and lead
Mhm.
generation and all this stuff, which a lot of people are just using automation tools. They don't know
Mhm.
anything about marketing. All they
Right.
do is set them up on an automation tool,
Mhm.
which it's just spam.
Mhm.
And so I've had people come back and say, "Man, I get these messages all the time, but yours
Mhm.
is so different.
Mhm.
I want to talk to you."
Right.
That's what
Mhm.
you want to do
Mhm.
in the way that you communicate.
Right. And of course, then the absolute critical thing is to respond to them. I get these messages all the time, and it's so funny. I got one the other day where he sent me a request to connect, looked interesting, so yep, I accepted it. And a little bit later, so it wasn't, I wasn't thinking it was a bot. He responded, and he responded with a really humorous response. I mean, it was along the lines of, "Dear first name here," and then he put dot dot dot. Just kidding, but we all get those, right? And we do.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
then he's, and then he went on a little bit more. And I said, "You know what?" And I replied, and I said, "Okay, you did catch my attention, and I'd actually love to chat with you."
yeah.
Never heard back.
Oh
And I'm
wow.
like, "Dude, you spent all that time kind of catching me, then you never bothered to reel me in."
Yeah.
And if he were to respond now, I wouldn't reply back.
Right.
Because it was cute a couple weeks ago. Now it's like, yeah, you really didn't care. And more importantly, I'm going to think, okay, if you didn't care about that, you're not going to care about if we actually work together. I mean, you
Yeah.
just showed your work ethic there by doing it that way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And yeah, totally agree. Yeah, if people come back and say, "Yeah, let's communicate," then communicate.
Right.
And
Mhm. And it doesn't
look,
have to be right away. I mean, 24 hours ish is okay, but
yeah,
2 weeks, no, not so much.
yeah, and I mean, here's the thing. I've missed messages because
Mhm.
look,
Right. We
LinkedIn's
get a
messaging
lot.
platform
Mhm.
is not very user friendly.
Mm-mm.
Like,
No.
it's very cluttered. It's hard
Mhm.
it's just not user
Mhm.
friendly. And so I've missed messages
Mhm.
just because things, if
Right.
there's, it's just cluttered how
Mhm.
LinkedIn has it. Hopefully they'll update it and make it
Mhm.
more user friendly at some point. But even then, it's how you communicate back to
Right.
people around that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh,
And
I missed your message.
yes, and be honest around
Mhm.
it. And that's what I've told you. Hey,
Mhm.
I don't know how I missed it, but I
Mhm.
missed it. I'm really sorry about
Mhm.
that. I'd still be open to chat with you,
Mhm.
and that way it's still personal. They know
Mhm.
that, and most people are pretty forgiving of that
Mhm.
and understand that. But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely communicate
Mhm.
back. Move that conversation into a
Mhm.
phone call then, and kind of go from there. So
Mhm.
that's obviously what I do with my clients. We go into a
Mhm.
lot more depth around that. I help them frame it, and we work
Right.
through all of that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
But LinkedIn, kind of going back to what I was saying at the
Mhm.
earlier, it is a phenomenal platform,
Mhm.
but it's probably one of the most misunderstood and
Right.
underutilized platforms out there, because people are still trying to use it like Facebook or Instagram, and you
Mhm.
can't. It's a different, the psychology of people on there are just different, because how they're using LinkedIn, that very same person,
Mhm.
they're very different on Facebook.
Right. Oh yeah, I am going to post the cute cat video on Facebook. I would never
Yeah.
ever post it on LinkedIn.
No, no. So I love it. It's a phenomenal
Mhm.
platform, and it's so good to generate business,
Mhm.
get leads from it. I mean, there's so much opportunity on
Mhm.
LinkedIn,
Right.
so much.
Mhm.
So I definitely, I love that you're doing this whole month on
Mhm.
LinkedIn, because if people aren't on LinkedIn, they need to get on it.
Mhm.
They need to start understanding it better and
Mhm.
utilizing it, because it is a fantastic
Right.
platform to
Right.
use.
And I think one of the things that we've definitely seen, I mean, we alluded to this before, is the pandemic. It totally made us change how we connect with people. Here in Atlanta, they went back to in-person networking meetings in May of 2020. And I mean, that was, and so the organizations that I belong to started meeting. Now, part of that was they could meet outside, and so that kind of helped with, with the cootie factor. But, I looked at it and I went, yeah, I'm just not comfortable doing that. It's just, and I miss the people. I really miss
Yeah,
the people. Somebody hugged me the other day and it startled me. Because I was like, well, yeah, he touched me. He touched me. Um,
yeah.
and but it is one of those things where we're not comfortable going to those things, and more importantly, I think we discovered I didn't need them. It was okay to go see people, and sometimes I got some good education, and here in the South, of course, the catering is fabulous. But we all discovered, "Ooh, we don't really need that, because we can network on LinkedIn." And it really has been how I've been building my network. And I've been, trying to be, as you said, be very strategic about it, and not just, blat out there. Partially because if you send too many things in one day, like too many requests to connect in one day, LinkedIn goes, so you do have to watch that. and
Yeah.
and so, I go through and I pick, maybe 10, 20 at the very most, to send a request to connect. I tell them why, because as fabulous as I think I am, why would they want to connect with me without knowing
Yeah.
why? um,
Yeah.
but there's certainly very strategic ways, and I think we're going to discover that, when things are more back to normal, that's not going to happen. I mean, for one thing, normal's gone, we have a new normal. um, but we're going to continue doing this, and so why not make sure that you've got a spectacular profile and a strategy for it? But one of the things that I always wonder, Jason, is how, this seems very time consuming. How much time per day do you think you spend on LinkedIn?
So for people can spend 30 minutes a day on
Mhm.
LinkedIn. It's very doable to do
Right.
that.
I do that while I'm having breakfast.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
really easy to do that.
Mhm.
I have an outsourcer, a VA, that does a
Mhm.
lot of stuff for me on that.
Mhm.
So time wise, there's a lot
Mhm.
more time actually spent on it doing that. But that's what I do. Like, I'm a
Mhm.
LinkedIn trainer, I consult, I train people. So
Right. You'd
we
better
we
be
spend
spending time on it.
yeah,
Mhm.
we spend a lot more time on it, and there's new features rolling out all the time. As a
Mhm.
matter of fact, there's just literally been an announcement in the last 2 days around LinkedIn that I'm quite excited about. But with your profile
Mhm.
image, the little circle one on
Mhm.
LinkedIn, you're going to actually be able to upload, I believe, I'm still trying to find the exact
Mhm.
length, but a 20-second video intro.
Yeah, because they've got the audio one, and I love that. I just changed mine because it was designed just to tell people how to say your name.
Yep.
And which is good, because nobody ever says my name right, and it doesn't really matter to me. But but it's, you get 10 seconds, so
Yeah.
it doesn't take me 10 seconds to say career.
Nope.
So I've added a little blurb there, and so you get, a little 10-second blurb. But oh, I love the idea of video. That's way cool.
Yeah. So they're launching that. So that's gonna be cool. So that
Mhm.
it's gonna be a great way for people to straight away be able to
Mhm.
hear you and see
Mhm.
you, and actually give you a little bit more time to explain what you do.
Right.
And then of course there's a lot of other strategies
Mhm.
involved with that as well. You can tell them to go to a
Mhm.
landing page for a free
Mhm.
gift, and there's loads of other stuff that you can
Mhm.
do around that. But that's pretty cool that they're doing.
Mhm.
And they're doing some stuff with your if you're a content creator.
Mhm.
They're going to be putting the featured section up right
Mhm.
at the very top, which all of that is right.
Mhm.
It's below the about section. So
Mhm.
anything featured that you have,
Mhm.
people have to scroll down like it's below the fold.
Right.
So they're putting all that
Mhm.
in option.
Mhm.
You don't have to have it, but they're putting that up at the top.
Mhm.
And then I don't do LinkedIn lives, but one of the really cool things that they're
Mhm.
launching now as well is if you do LinkedIn live, your banner
Mhm.
will turn into your LinkedIn live while you're doing the LinkedIn live.
Oh, now that's cool.
Yeah. So all these sorts of things, they're,
Mhm.
LinkedIn is looking at
Mhm.
how can people continue to
Mhm.
engage with people, and which is awesome. So
Mhm.
that's why I would say get on LinkedIn,
Mhm.
get on there, create content, add value, connect with people, and help.
Mhm.
If you're there to help and people can feel that, see that, know
Mhm.
that that's what you're there to do, you'll get business from it.
Right.
So
Right. I always tell people use it the same way that you would if you were attending a networking thing in person.
exactly.
You're not just going to go up and fling your business card at somebody. You're not going to go up and immediately say, "Hey, Jason, I'm Deb. Why don't you want to work with me?"
Yep.
And we take time, we build relationships, we have conversations. We might not actually pitch to them for weeks, months, who knows? But we also need to have that good 30-second elevator pitch, which is
Yep.
kind of what I think about your about section is, and all of those things. So, treat it that way. And the big part is, I think, to remember, and this really comes back to exactly what we've been talking about, is treat people with respect. You don't like being spammed to, being, ignored. So don't do that to your connections.
Exactly. Yeah. Treat people how you want to be treated.
Mhm.
And that is a big key to that. If you do it that way, you communicate, reach out, all your messaging, all of that. Just do it the way you would want to be
Mhm.
reached out to.
Right.
And you'd be surprised
Mhm.
what a world difference that will make in
Mhm.
in the way that you generate leads and
Mhm.
do business on LinkedIn.
Great. I love it. Well, oh my gosh, Jason. See, this is why I set a timer, because we'd be going for hours, and it's evening for you. You're ready to knock off for the weekend. But tell us exactly what you do for people and then how they connect with you.
Sure. So I do a lot of consultancy with people, work with corporations as well as coaches, consultants, and advisors, and
Mhm.
actually consult with them one-on-one
Okay.
on making sure their LinkedIn profile is right and how
Mhm.
they message and how they move outside of what I call your commodity-based marketing, and so that they stand out, how to do all of their messaging,
Mhm.
content, all that. So we do a lot of consultancy around
Mhm.
that. I've also just launched a digital course around it as well, because some people
Oh.
don't actually want to do the
Mhm.
consultancy side. So we've got a course around it.
Mhm.
And then we've started managing some people's LinkedIn as
Okay.
well, because they just don't want to do it. They
Mhm.
want to outsource that so they
Mhm.
can focus on building their
Mhm.
business and all that sort of stuff. So we do kind of a wide range of stuff.
Mhm.
But I have a free mini course.
Ah,
It's a LinkedIn
wonderful.
mini
Mhm.
training course that people can get by going to
Mhm.
impactforleads.com. So impactforleads.com, and you
Mhm.
can get that for free, and kind of start getting into
Mhm.
the LinkedIn world around that, and they can implement what they learn on that training,
Great.
and kind of go from there.
Perfect. I love it. I love it. And of course, they can connect with you on LinkedIn.
Of course.
And it's funny. I put in the show notes. I will have your LinkedIn URL, but I also say tell people where, and because if somebody doesn't tell me why they want to connect,
Yeah.
it's kind of 50-50 as to whether I'll
Yeah.
connect with them or not. And a big part of it is I look and I see, oh, we've got a whole bunch of other mutual connections. But if it's somebody I have, then, most of the time I don't even go to their profile.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Same
yeah.
here. That's what I always tell people. Tell
Mhm.
me why you're connecting.
Mhm.
Say, hey, I saw you on this, or I
Mhm.
saw you on that.
Mhm.
Then at least I'll accept you.
Right.
Then it doesn't
Mhm.
matter what industry you're in.
Mhm. Right.
I'll still accept you.
Right. Yeah. Because, we kind of, our egos kind of like that a little bit. Right.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Right. Well, oh my gosh, Jason, we are finished with the program. And so what final thoughts would you like to leave everyone with?
Well, so what I'd say is this. I'll just reiterate what I was saying earlier. Think
Mhm.
about how you want to be reached out and communicated with. Frame that in the way that you reach out and communicate with your ideal target market and prospect, and add value to them. You do that on a consistent basis, you will generate business through LinkedIn.
Perfect. I love it. I love it. Well, I've been having just an absolutely wonderful discussion about LinkedIn with Jason Osborn from Impact for Leads. I'm Deb Creer, and until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.